What is up, everybody? Matt McAdam here, your truck editor at Driving Line, aka Desert Chief, with another episode of Chasing Dust for you guys. But first of all, I want to ask you guys, how you guys doing? The world's kind of in a crazy spot right now. Strange times for a lot of us. But despite all that, you guys, I'm still going to be making videos for you because guess what? I'm stuck here at home. And if you're like me, and the 75 million other Americans out there that are currently under a lockdown, there's a lot of time on your hands. So today's episode is going to be about what you can do in the garage with some of the extra time you might have if you're not going to be working, if you're not going to be out doing stuff. And you know, a lot of us are under those conditions right now. This episode is going to help you guys come up with a few ideas that you can do around the garage. If you're a gearhead like me, there's definitely some stuff that you've been putting off. So today we're going to explore some of those things. It is a beautiful day here in Southern California, and I would want nothing more than to go explore the outdoors and be at the beach or be in the mountains or whatever. But because of the situation that we have right now in the world, a lot of us are stuck at home. This is going to be a little bit about what I'm going to be doing during my time here at home, and hopefully it inspires you guys to come up with a few projects in the garage that you can do while you're at home. But if you're not at home, I understand there's definitely a lot of people out there that are still working. Hope you guys stay safe out there, and if you have some time on your hands later on, maybe you can use some of these ideas to take on some of these projects later. Now, I got 10 ideas on my list today. Of course, these aren't going to apply to everybody, but it's going to be more generic things, some things that are a little bit more specific, but I think mostly these are stuff that a lot of us can do in our own garages. Before I start on our list, I just want to let you guys know I'm not going to actually be doing any of this stuff on camera because that would literally take me about 10 days to finish my list. Hopefully you guys can take some inspiration from that, maybe do some of the same stuff, or maybe come up with some new ideas. And if you do, please put it in the comments, because I probably am going to run through this list before they're gonna let me out of the house. So I'll have a lot of time to do other stuff too. Okay, so let's get started. Project number 1, organize your tools. I know that that's kind of a trivial project to do around the garage, but at the same time, I'm definitely guilty of this, and I'm sure many of you guys are, just letting your tools get all over the place while you're working on your projects until you literally can't find anything, and then you're forced to sit there and start organizing everything. One of the best things you can do while you're stuck at home or whatever is to go through all the stuff that you have, all the tools you may have laying around the garage, maybe on the workbenches, whatever, and just organize them, put them back where they're supposed to go. Everybody should have some sort of an organizational system if they have a toolbox or a cart or, you know, maybe a tool bag or something. But just put everything where it needs to be so that way you can get your projects done a little bit quicker. So obviously that's kind of an easy one, but that's why it's number 1 on our list. And it's actually one of the first things you should do before you start working on anything else. As you can see, very guilty of this. You got all this clutter here, stuff everywhere. This desk over here is full of tools and all kinds of random bits. So yeah, I could definitely use a tool organization day and kind of get all these boxes cleaned up. Project number 2 on our list may require a little bit more work depending on what you have in your garage, but nonetheless, I think it's something important. I like a clean garage, somewhere that's, clean surfaces to work on. And one of the things that tends to get really overlooked is the floor. A lot of people, do their own fluid changes, and you get leaks and stuff. It's just part of the game. And we tend to just mop things up with like a rag and put them away. But really doing a deep cleaning of your garage floor can be really, really beneficial just to the overall functionality and look of your garage. Making sure that it's clear from any stains or spills. Maybe you put down some of the absorbent material to clean up some oil. That stuff kind of gets everywhere. Dust, all kinds of stuff. You're working in the garage for hours on end. The last thing you want to do is roll out from underneath your car and just be covered in all kinds of stuff. So cleaning your shop floor is one of those things that I tend to do about once or twice a year just to make sure that it looks nice. But now is a really good time to do it because I don't have a whole lot more going on. What it obviously requires is taking everything out of your shop or your garage. And for some of us, that's a little bit easier said than done. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff in this shop here that I work out of. There's a forklift, a bunch of parts over there, some tires, obviously a couple of cars over there, some welding tables and equipment. So getting majority of this stuff out would take probably about a half a day. And the other half of the day, what I'd be doing is grabbing this jug of simple green right here and mixing it with some water and kind of just spilling it all over the floor here in sections so I can clean up some of this stuff. You know, you can see right here underneath the Trophy LTD, there's some spillage here from some fluids that we were changing, and that simple green is really easy and it will clean that stuff right up. Once you get all this stuff cleaned out of here, I do recommend, by the way, you want to definitely broom up all the heavy debris if you have any of that stuff first, and then start mopping. So yeah, a clean floor is a happy floor. All right, well, once you got all your tools put away and you got a clean floor, one of the things I like to do is kind of go through all the loose hardware that I have and organize it into little bins that are labeled correctly. So that way, if I need to go find some hardware somewhere, I know exactly where to get it, easy to grab. I know a lot of us, including myself, are guilty of just kind of like throwing all the miscellaneous hardware into like a pile, maybe somewhere on your workbench or something, or maybe in a drawer. And you're going to be sitting there, if you need a bolt for something, you know, just digging through a drawer for like 20 minutes just to find something that will work. If you have a couple of bins, you can get them from Harbor Freight. They're pretty cheap. A couple of plastic bins, maybe you get about 10 or 12 of them, and start organizing your hardware. And then you can organize them by size, by type, standard or metric or stainless steel, all kinds of different ways to organize them however you'd like. But just having a system in place so that when you do need to go look for a bolt, you can find it. And as you can see, that is a project that I'm going to be working on. There is all kinds of hardware here. I mean, everything from bolts to nuts to, you know, spring washers, lock washers, some change even, spark plugs, hose clamps. All this stuff can be organized and put into bins just like this one right over here. And obviously this bin's got some electrical light bulb stuff in it, but you can get some of these bins here from Harbor Freight. I got to go through this entire wall here and start organizing all this. And yeah, so you can see some of these are labeled, the label maker, 916 nuts, fuses. It's got the labels all on them. Now I just got to go back through everything and really organize it because there's a lot of loose hardware here. Now, before we move on to stuff you can actually do on your vehicle, I'm gonna give you guys one more project to do for your garage. If you don't already have this, in my opinion, it makes working in the garage a lot more fun, a little bit more bearable, kind of lets the time pass by. Install a sound system. There's a lot of ways to go about it. Back in the day, we used to take old computer speakers and kind of wire them up and hang the speakers in the corners of the garage and have like an old, you know, boom box or whatever playing the CD or a tape if you're as old as I am. And that's how we used to do it. But nowadays, there's Bluetooth speakers you can get from Amazon or something for like 40 bucks, and they're plenty loud enough. You can put them anywhere in the garage. Easy to charge with a USB, and they hook up to your phone wirelessly, so you can just change your songs as you're working on your stuff. But if you don't already have a sound system of some sort in your garage, it's a pretty good time to put one in. I mean, you can easily listen to some tunes and stuff while you're working on stuff, and definitely makes the time go by a little bit faster. So that's an easy one, but that's the last one on our list for the stuff you can do in the garage itself. All right, so that pretty much does it for stuff that I'm gonna be doing here in my garage over the next couple weeks. We're gonna move on to some of the projects that I wanna work on my actual vehicle, which if you guys have watched some of my previous videos, is my 1991 Toyota pickup truck. This is nicknamed Scarlet. It's my pre-runner, 4-wheel drive. It's a really fun truck, but it's definitely been neglected. It's got a really bad misfire right now, so I do need to swap the motor out. And I've just been kind of putting it off, so it's been sitting in the side yard, kind of just, you know, collecting dust. But I do have some things that I want to do on this truck that's not related to the engine or anything, but stuff that will just help keep it preserved a little bit better while it's waiting for an engine. And I know a lot of you guys maybe have long-term projects like this that sit around for a while or weeks or months on end. And some of the things I'm gonna go over here with this vehicle will apply to your car or your truck or whatever you got. So let's get into it. All right, so as you can see, the truck's not in horrible shape. You know, it still runs, it still drives, stops, steers, but there's a lot of aesthetic things that I really wanna take care of. You know, mainly doing some paint and stuff like that, but that's going to take a lot longer. So the first item on our list that I'm going to be taking care of is if you have aluminum wheels like I do. These are KMC machete wheels. They look really nice when they're brand new, but after a couple of years of hard use and being out in the weather and stuff, they tend to, you know, get some of this grime and stuff just kind of stuck inside the aluminum. And one really easy way that you can make these look really nice is just to polish them. If it's machined aluminum like this or just raw aluminum, you can actually polish these even to a mirror finish. I've seen it done before. I've personally never done it, but it's a project that I'm probably willing to take on. I'm going to change the hardware here. The hardware that came with these has since rusted over, so that's another good thing to do if you're going to be taking your beadlock wheels apart, is change your hardware out for some grade 8 stainless steel, something like that. And I'm going to try to bring these wheels back to like a really clean mirror finish polish. I think that would really improve the look of the truck overall, and that's why it's #1 on my list, because it's a long project. You know, it's going to probably take you maybe a day or two to do it, but it's a lot cheaper than sending it out to somebody, because I got quotes for doing these about $120 per wheel to polish them from my local metal polisher guys. So obviously, instead of spending that $500 or whatever to have these polished, I got some time on my hands. I'm going to take the wheels off the truck, maybe debead the tires, you know, take the rings off, really start to get into it with a polisher and some compound, and see what I can do to bring the shine back to these aluminum wheels, because they're super nice wheels. I really like these wheels on this truck, but yeah, they've seen better days. So if you got aluminum wheels, maybe it's a project you want to take on. A couple of days to get it right, but I think you're going to be really happy with the end product. And guys, that goes for anything else that's aluminum on this truck. I mean, this light box here is also made out of just bare aluminum, so I'm going to try to do the same thing with this one and bring the shine back to it and kind of get some of this dirt and grime out of it. So it's something I've, again, never done before, never attempted, but I've seen a few tutorials on how to do it, and there's plenty of that online, so I'm going to try to tackle that project on. All right, so moving on to the vehicle's interior or exterior, depending on what you have. If you have a vehicle, a car, a truck, a Jeep or something that's got any kind of like structural cage or tubing that's on there, especially if it's bare tubing, a lot of times interior cages are not painted, they're bare steel or, you know, whatever they are. They tend to collect some surface rust, especially if you live somewhere where you're nearby to an ocean, or if it's really humid, or you know, you get a lot of humidity in the air. You can get a lot of that surface rust on the inside of your vehicle. Obviously, if it's on the outside, it's going to rust a lot quicker. But I've done a few things on this truck to actually inhibit that rust over the years on the interior roll cage on my vehicle, and it's time to re-up on that. So it wasn't really an easy project because it took most of the day to do it, but it's something that lasted a long time, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about right here. So looking at the interior here of my truck, you guys can see that obviously it's got a roll cage and it goes all the way throughout the interior through the cab, and it doesn't look like it's really covered in rust, but you can see some spots that definitely have some surface rust on them. I don't know if you guys can tell from the video here, but there's some lines here from probably a leak through the roof. Some of this plate steel here has some surface rust on it, and the tubing itself, I don't know if you can tell, but you can see a little bit of like some lines here where some drips have been. But one thing that I did to this truck 3 years ago when I first purchased it was that I ripped the entire interior out of this thing, minus the actual carpet itself. So I took the seats, all the trim, anything that I had back here, my subwoofer, my toolbox, all that stuff, you know, my amp for the stereo, took everything out so I could climb in here real nice and get access to the entire cage. And I did a few things to clean up the rust. And I'm going to show you guys exactly what the process is for really cleaning up the interior cage if you have one, or this will work on pretty much any kind of bare metal that you want to keep from getting rusted. Okay, so what you're going to need for this project is just two things. They're not very expensive. This is not a very expensive project. It just takes a little bit of elbow grease and some time. Is 2 items, WD-40 and Scotch-Brite. So a lot of you guys already know this trick. You just spray down the tubing with WD-40, and then you start just really scrubbing it down with the Scotch-Brite pad. And what that'll do is it'll lift the rust off of there, and at the same time, the WD-40 will help inhibit new rust from forming because it covers the tubing and water displacement material, which is what WD stands for in WD-40, and it kind of keeps the moisture out of the metal, and it keeps it from oxidizing. So really easy to do. I'll give you guys a quick demonstration of how it's done. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate this for you guys on this tube right here. As you can see, hopefully there's a little bit of surface rust already starting to accumulate on this tube. This is a gusset here for the B-pillar, and I'm going to just spray it with some WD-40 and then give it a little scrub, and I'll show you guys the difference of what it looks like after I'm done. Okay, so give it a little spray, not a whole lot, you don't need a ton. And grab your Scotch-Brite pad. Okay, once you give it a good scrub, that was probably about, I don't know, 45 seconds to a minute of just rubbing that down. What you want to do is grab yourself a shop rag or a towel and just wipe off that excess. And you can already see with just less than a minute how much cleaner that tube is looking. You can get some more of this stuff off with just scrubbing a little bit harder. So it's really comes off really easily. You just got to put some elbow grease behind it. And yeah, if you have a cage like mine where it's really intricate, you get a lot of gussets and a lot of stuff going on and tight corners, and it can be rather time consuming, but I promise you that the end result is worth every bit of it, because you have such a nice cage when it's all finished up. But you know what? I don't stop there. There is another process that you can add on to this once you have everything nice and clean. What I like to do is go in there and dry the cage off, take all the WD-40 off that I can, just kind of wipe it all down so it's dry steel. And you get yourself a bottle of linseed oil. You can get it from any hardware store. It's usually used for like treating wood, but it's an oil that you can get. It comes in like a just a regular jug, and just apply that to a clean rag or a clean shop towel, and just massage all the tubes that are inside your cage or any kind of bare steel. This doesn't have to be a cage. It could be anything that's bare steel that has rust growing on it. After you clean it up, put some of that linseed oil on there. Don't be afraid to give it a couple of coats and just make sure it dries. Go back, do another coat of it. And I gotta tell you, man, I didn't really think that stuff worked that well when I first started using it. But I live near the ocean, and I haven't done a full cage clean on this truck in 3 years, and it still looks pretty good. I mean, there's definitely some surface rust on there now, but I mean, that's been 3 years that linseed oil has really helped kind of seal in the tubing there. So it's another great old trick that I learned from some people, and I swear by it. So once you're done cleaning up all your bare steel, your bare metal, grab yourself a jug of linseed oil and just wipe everything down with that. And I guarantee you your results are gonna last a lot longer than just leaving it with the WD-40 on there. And don't worry, that linseed oil doesn't stay oily. It actually dries and hardens onto the metal. So you don't need to worry about getting it on your shirt or getting your legs scraped with some oil or whatever. If you leave it outside, well ventilated, it'll dry in about a day or so, and then it's just kind of hardened on the metal. Okay, so moving on to our next project that I'm gonna be doing on this truck while I'm stuck at home under lockdown. Is going to be just an overall deep clean of the chassis. This is something that you off-roader guys definitely have been putting off. I'm sure I definitely put it off a lot. If you go anywhere where there's mud, which is kind of hard to avoid these days, especially in the wintertime, that stuff just gets caked underneath the entire vehicle, along your frame rail and any of the holes in the frame, all your suspension, the drivetrain. My transmission probably has like an inch of mud stuck to it, even in your exhaust system. So that's something that takes a long time to clean up, but it's one of those things that is well worth it once you're finished with it, especially if you do a good job and you go through and clean everything up. You have a nice fresh platform to go under there. If you have to do any work on it, you don't have to worry about mud falling on your face. I mean, my motto with mud is 5 seconds of fun, 5 years of stuff falling on your face when you're working on the truck. So definitely is something that I need to do on this truck, because I haven't done it yet since I bought the truck. So I need to go under there. Basically, I'm just going to take like a wire brush and maybe some simple green or degreaser, and just really go after anything that's stuck under there. If it's like an old oil stain or some mud caked under there, whatever it might be, and just try to clean up the chassis as best as I can. Clean up the drivetrain, the exhaust, all the stuff that can get mud and debris stuck to it while you're off-roading. So for the U-Car guys, it's probably not gonna be that bad. You can probably get under there with some simple green and a rag and just kind of wipe everything down. But for us off-roaders, it takes a little bit more work and a lot more time. So yeah, but it's something that you guys can do while you're just stuck at home. You know, you just put the thing up on jack stands if you have to, or if you can just crawl under it like I can on this truck. Just get after it, man. It's one of those things that you can do. It's really, really easy. It doesn't take a lot of money, just takes a lot of time. All right, and that brings us to suspension and bolt check and prep. This is something that a lot of us off-roaders do quite frequently on a regular basis, but I'm sure a lot of you car guys, anybody who hits the track with their vehicle, you know, if you're a drag guy or a time attack or road course racing, you know, those are the people that do this a lot. But I mean, anybody can do it and everybody can use it once in a while. What I'm talking about is a bolt check. And what it really consists of is going through all the major components of a vehicle. So your steering, your suspension, your drivetrain, you know, all the things that take most of the hits when you're out there doing whatever it is you do with your car or truck. Go through, do a torque check, make sure everything is tight the way it needs to be, not over torqued, you know, not too loose. And once you have all the bolts and everything, you know, torqued down to where you think they need to be for all the major components, you know, look for things like failure points, you know, anything that has a lot of load on it, you know, your shocks, all this stuff, you know, those all have hardware that hold it to the chassis, and that hardware needs to be tightened down to a correct spec. And a lot of times aftermarket manufacturers don't provide that spec for you, so you kind of just tighten it to what you think it needs to be at least that's what I do for a lot of stuff. And over the years of use, you know, or even months of use, those bolts and those nuts can stretch, they back out, you know, things happen once they get a lot of stress put on them. And the last thing you want is one of those to come apart or break while you're out there, because that can cause a lot of damage and possibly a lot of injury. So this is one of those things that's really important to do, and I put it off a lot because I just want to get out there and go have fun with the truck, but it's something that I need to start doing on a more regular basis. Why not get it started now? So I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about right here. So as you guys can see, we're here underneath the passenger side of the Toyota. This is the front suspension here, and these are some of the bolts I'm talking about. You know, the tie rod stuff, the steering, any of the suspension pivots, shock bolts, you know, all kinds of hardware here that was aftermarket installed and, you know, possibly not torqued down correctly, or maybe needs to be retorqued. So after you go through and tighten everything down to where it needs to be, or maybe change the hardware out, what I like to do is take a paint pen or a paint marker and draw a line across the bolt and the nut here. And that way you can easily see with a quick visual inspection if any of the hardware has moved or if it's backed off. So you guys may be able to see here, there's an old orange line here on this bolt here from the center link to the idler arm, and it's kind of fading. So that's an old line that I put on there, but I don't have a paint pen on me right now. I'm just using a Sharpie just for demonstration purposes, but please do not use a Sharpie, use a paint pen, because this will not last nearly as long. And what you want to do is draw a line just like that down onto the hardware itself. And use a vibrant color. You guys don't use something dark like this green here. Use like a, you know, neon pink or an orange or yellow or something like that. And that way you can just peep underneath the truck real quick before you go out, check all the bolts and the hardware, make sure none of it, you know, has moved. And if it has, you can tighten it down, and that'll keep you a lot safer in the long run. So that's one thing that I need to do on this entire truck, is go through all the hardware on the front suspension, the rear suspension, you know, all the major components of the drivetrain, the steering, and just make sure that all that stuff is tightened down properly, and then start paint penning all of the hardware. So that way, before I go out off-roading, I can just do a quick little look, make sure everything is still good. The next on our list is something that should be a part of anybody's maintenance schedule on their vehicle, whether you're a car enthusiast or not. But some of us who don't have a whole lot of time to work on our vehicles and we'd like to do it ourselves, can take this time if you're at home and you're not working, or if you're just going to be working from home and you have some extra time here to do. And what I'm talking about here is checking all your fluids, doing your fluid changes, and making sure that everything under the hood is nice and topped off. So we're gonna look underneath the hood of Scarlet here. As you guys can see, it is a complete and total mess under here. Obviously, last time I took this truck out, I was off-roading it through some pretty gnarly mud, and it has gotten all over this thing. But what we're gonna be focusing on is the fluids. So first things first, power steering fluid. You wanna check to see that that's at the correct level. and make sure that the fluid's not too dark or doesn't smell burnt. And that way, you know, you can gauge to see whether it's time to flush that power steering pump, which is, you know, could be easy or hard depending on the pump that you have. But usually just topping it off is fine. So that's one of the first easiest things you can do is check that. And your washer fluid obviously is another one. That's kind of trivial. Mine's empty because I never use it. But yeah, so fill the washer fluid up. Radiator, also pretty easy to check. Just pop this cap off. Take a look down there. You see fluid as you jiggle it around. Yep, it's full. If the fluid's not milky, or if it's not, you know, too brown and covered with rust on the inside of the radiator or the inside of your engine, if it is, maybe time to do a radiator flush. Most radiators have a drain at the bottom of them. You pop open that petcock valve, let all the fluid out of the radiator, and then what I like to do is refill it with just regular tap water and run the engine, let it cycle through the engine, and then shut it off, drain it. Do that same cycle a couple of times, and after a while you'll start to clean out everything that's in the engine, and then you can top it. You can fill the whole thing up with the correct mixture of coolant and water. So that's what I like to do to flush the radiator and make sure that the radiator fluid is all clean, the antifreeze, coolant, whatever you want to call it. Next would be the engine oil. Obviously check your dipstick here, make sure you have enough oil, and if you don't, top it off, do an oil change. Very easy, typical maintenance stuff that you might have time to do now. And of course your brake master cylinder here. This also happens to be an ABS truck, so it does have all the ABS stuff on it. I just serviced my brakes, so this is nice and full. There's usually a maximum minimum line on the side of this reservoir here, so you can see exactly where it needs to be at. Mine's at the max line. And if your vehicle is equipped with a manual transmission, you will oftentimes have a separate reservoir for your clutch, slave cylinder, master cylinder fluid, and that's right there. Make sure that's topped off so that way you have your hydraulic clutch still working correctly. So just a couple of things that you can check underneath the hood here. Make sure all your fluids are good. And beyond that, if you do have like four-wheel drive or you use an off-road truck, you can check the fluids under your vehicle, meaning your differentials, front and rear, your transfer case. All that stuff just takes regular gear oil typically. Your transmission, if you have a manual or automatic, you can pull the dipstick on there and check that fluid and see if it's maybe time for a flush. I like to change the gear oil every 30,000 miles on a vehicle that I use off-road. That kind of just keeps the gears from getting too worn out. So something to keep in mind if you're going to be doing fluids. That's another project that I'm going to be taking on this truck here, is doing all the fluids on this vehicle, including the drivetrain, the front and rear differentials, transfer case, and the manual transmission oil as well. So yeah, that's a whole, probably a good day and a half project right there, depending on how much work you got, how much stuff you got to do. That was number 9 on our list of things that you can do, projects you can take on while you're under lockdown in your own garage or at home, wherever you are. Number 10 on our list, our last item, is to check on your friends. If you're like me, you have a lot of automotive friends, you have a lot of gearhead buddies, people that like to do exactly what you do. I think during times like this, it's important to check on your friends and see what they're up to, and maybe you can get some ideas, bounce some ideas off of them and see what they're working on. Maybe they have something that they're working on that you might be able to do on your own vehicle, or something you hadn't thought of, or vice versa. Maybe it's something that you have to offer them that they haven't done on their vehicle or in their garage. So check on your friends. And what I'm gonna do in the correct social distancing way of doing it is a video conference. So I'm gonna show you guys how I do that in the proper social distancing way of doing things. I'm gonna head inside of my office and I'm gonna dial up our editor-in-chief at Driving Line, Kristin Cline. If you guys don't know Kristin, if you haven't seen any of the stuff that she's worked on, she's awesome. She loves working on vehicles. She has a huge shop at her house in Texas, in the Fort Worth area, and she just moved out there a couple years ago, and she's getting her garage put together and starting to work on some projects she's got. She has an old Ford F100 project she's working on. She has a Studebaker that she used to daily drive here when she lived here in SoCal. I want to see what projects she's got going on, what she's doing in the garage. She's building out this entire shop to work on stuff, and I haven't seen it yet, so I really want to see what she's up to. So let's go inside and give her a call.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Kristin.
How's it going, buddy?
It's going great. Let me see if I can, there we go. I got you on there now. So I'm doing this vlog episode here, and I figured I'd give you a call on a Saturday night here and see what you're up to.
Yeah, of course. Most weekends I'm out in the garage anyway, so for me, like this whole social distancing and lockdown isn't a huge change of pace. Um, but that being said, it is a great time to get some things done that you've been putting off.
Absolutely, yeah. And I love what you've done with the garage so far. I can see right behind you, you got the shell sign up, you got some new paint on the walls, and it's looking really good in there.
Yeah, we put that up over the holidays when we had a little time off work. Huge difference to the garage. It's, crazy how often people just kind of move in the garage and put all their tools in there and start working and like don't really, just like being cool looking. It really makes a difference to the shop because we spend so much time out here. It was pretty sweet. I picked up that shell sign from an auction for $17.
$17?
Sitting at home. Yeah, so we hung that up and threw some lights behind it, and it's great.
That's awesome. Very cool. So I know that you've been doing some improvements to the shop otherwise than the aesthetics, but you've done some things to kind of make your workspace a little bit better and a little more conducive to getting things done in there. So you want to share with us some of the stuff you've done?
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, we finally bit the bullet and bought a huge pack of LED lights.
Nice.
So our whole shop, we've got, I don't know, about 40 or so 8-foot long fluorescent fixtures.
Mm-hmm.
And it had gotten so bad since we moved in that, there was a lot of them were flickering or had already gone out. The buzz was just like deafening at night. I stopped coming in the garage at night because it was so bad.
Yeah, it's like eerie almost, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that thing that you don't know is like oppressive.
Yeah.
Until you change it. So,
right.
We were like, all right, we're doing it. We're buying LEDs. We actually only bought a pack of 25 bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way the shop is right now, it is only at about a third of the lights or even half of the lights that we can put up. So it's plenty light out here. I'm still going to add some more.
Yeah.
But it's such a huge difference. So zero noise from the lights, and the light quality is so much better. It went from, being like yellow and dingy to being like white and really easy to see everything. So the process for that is you use the same light fixtures
mm-hmm.
that the fluorescents were held in. You just have to kind of take them down, rejigger some of the wires. It's pretty simple, and cut out the ballast. But the fixture is the same fixture. So fluorescent bulbs are about $8 a piece for an 8-foot. The LED ones are about 15. So it's a little bit more investment to start with.
Yeah.
But makes such a huge difference. Save on energy, and they should last way longer than fluorescents would. So in the long run, it'll actually save us money.
It pays off. Yeah, definitely. So that's awesome. So you guys can see what you're working on, and you got a nice even lighting throughout, and that's really cool. And it was something you guys did yourselves, right? You didn't have anybody come help you with it.
Yeah, we pretty much do everything.
Yeah. So that's
ourselves are our friends.
That's a really good project people can take on, is kind of just improving your lighting inside your shop or your garage or wherever you work on your vehicles. And I'm sure that it's one of those things that people overlook a lot because they just don't think about it. You flip a switch, you get working on stuff, and then turn it off before you leave. But actually having brighter lights that you don't have to hear that buzz like you were talking about, I'm sure it makes all the difference when you're working for hours on end in the shop. So
huge difference. And especially if you're doing work at night, a lot of people, this is their hobby, and the evenings are when they have time to work on their projects. So light makes a world of difference. I remember just thinking about that, like, because we have a really nice, like snap-on light that's the underhood one.
Yeah.
And I remember back when it was like trying to position a flashlight in the engine bay, or I'd have one of those tiny little metal ones that I'd like chink somewhere, or being under the car and just like hardly being able to see anything.
Yep.
It's so frustrating. So getting the right lights for working on your projects is worth the effort and the money, for
Awesome.
sure.
Yeah, I think that it's an upgrade that a lot of people are going to start doing now, because it's just LEDs have come so far, so that's awesome.
Yeah,
cool.
Highly recommend these tube light LEDs.
Awesome. So beyond the shop itself, you guys are working on a new Ford truck, or not, I shouldn't say a new Ford truck, but a very old Ford truck.
New to us.
New to you guys. Tell us a little bit about your new F-100 project.
Yeah, so we're working on a 66 F-100, and we've been working on it a while, so I wouldn't exactly call it new, but it still hasn't hit the road. So we actually went from a really simple project to we're actually doing a full frame-off restoration at this point. So, yeah, I mean, we've taken it down to bare metal, fully done the chassis, and it's going to be cool.
That's awesome. You guys using like a media blaster to cut all that stuff out and clean up the metal?
We recently just got a soda blaster, which initial plan was like, hey, we're going to take the truck and have it done by somebody, but it's like, well, we need a truck to be able to take the truck
to get it there.
Yeah, and so we started looking around at options and just decided that the soda blaster was the best bet for us. There's a lot of different, you can sandblast, you can glass or media blast, and soda blasting is actually baking soda, different than what you would buy at the grocery store, but kind of the same. There's different grits and whatnot depending on the project you're working on, but it's totally green. You can dispose of it in the garbage, so the soda is really nice in that respect.
Awesome. So that's definitely one of those like time-consuming projects that just you have to put a lot of elbow grease and effort into it, but getting it done makes all the difference, I think, once you're finished with it.
Yeah, totally. So, from what took me working on just like the tailgate, that took me about the same amount of time as it took my husband to soda blast the entire cab of the truck.
Yeah, so that's a huge helping hand, I think. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really happy about that tool addition and getting that done with the truck, because I'm excited to drive that thing. I want to get it done.
Yeah, that's going to be an awesome truck to drive around those backcountry roads you guys have out there. But you also have your Studebaker, which I wanted to talk about real quick, because you've been working on that one for a long time, but always kind of doing little things and making sure that she's good to go to drive on the roads. So any news with the Studebaker?
Yeah, so my Studi is kind of like your Scarlett, like they're our long-term projects. We love them. I get to do a lot of adventuring in Studi, but she's also a constant project. Right now, she needs a little bit of love. But for the winter, here in Texas, we have a little bit more winter than in SoCal. And so she's pretty much been sitting, and it's right now when we're all stuck at home, everybody has those maintenance projects that they always put off, whether it's, Studi needs an oil change and kind of needs to get ready for the spring and summer, or whether it's your daily driver. I know for me too, I've been putting off servicing that car as well. So oil changes, checking, all of your regular checks as well is always, find some extra time on your hands, always a good thing to do.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to check in with you. I know that you also have a new vlog series you're going to be putting out on Driving Line's YouTube channel, and I can't wait to see it, but I wanted to get a little bit of insight as to like what that series is going to be about.
Yeah, I'm excited to start doing a vlog here. It will be here in my garage, in my shop, because there's zillions of projects going on. And it will be a little bit more from the restoration standpoint. We've got obviously lots going on with the 66 F100 as we finish that up. And then there's always lots of things going on here. So we'll be sharing that, and I'm super stoked to start off. And me, along with my husband Ethan, who is an ASC certified mechanic. So I think it'll be fun sharing what we're working on together. And I'm always more of the hobbyist, and I still call myself a beginner, even though I've been doing this for quite a while. But I'm always learning. I love learning new things and trying things in the garage that I haven't done before. Whereas my husband's a pro and has a lot of knowledge to share. So we're stoked.
I think that's a perfect way for people to try to get to learn some of the stuff that you guys are going to be working on there for restorations. That's awesome. Always learning. That's always a great thing. So it's very cool.
Yeah. Well, thanks for checking on me, Matt. I hope that you stay safe and you have fun with all the projects you're doing in your garage.
You guys too. And I can't wait to get out there and see your new shop and see some of the projects you guys are working on for myself. So
yeah. Find an excuse to come to Texas.
Yeah. Oh, I can find 10 excuses right now. Awesome. Well, thanks, Kristin. I appreciate you spending some time with us tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Catch you later. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, there you guys have it. Really awesome to check in with Kristin. Again, she's our editor-in-chief here at Driving Line, and she does all kinds of cool projects. It was really nice to see the new shop that she's building out of her house and talk about some of the projects she's got going on. So keep an eye out for her vlog series. Going to be on the YouTube channel here very soon alongside mine, Chasing Dust, Ali Mansour's Inside Line. We're going to have a lot more vlog stuff coming out for you guys soon. So if you enjoy this platform, you're in luck because there's a lot more of it coming your way. I really hope this episode gave you guys some ideas of stuff to work on if you're going to be stuck at home for a while. For those of you who can't go to work, this is something that kind of helps the time pass by, and it's safe and it's an easy thing to do while you're just sitting around. It's better than sitting on the couch, right? You're being a little bit more productive and getting a head start on some of your projects. So hopefully you guys can use some of these ideas, and if you have other ideas for stuff you guys are working on, if you're under lockdown or if you're not under lockdown, whatever it is, just post them in the comments below. I'd love to see it. I got plenty of time to work on stuff here, so once I'm finished up with my list that we just went over, I'm probably going to need more stuff to tackle. So I'd love to get some ideas from you guys and see what you guys are up to. But with that all said, that's going to do it for us today, you guys. Please, please, please be safe out there. Practice social distancing. Stay at home if you can, as much as you can. For those of you who are working, please stay safe out there. I'm confident that we'll all get through this together. This is your truck editor at Driving Line, Matt McAdam, aka Desert Chief. Follow me on Instagram if you guys don't already. Signing off for Chasing Dust. I'll see you guys on the next one.